Alright, we're going to talk about Spectral Shield Throw, and just kind of figure out what there is to know about it. So, for you guys, Bashugar wrote this Reddit page, which was really nice. Someone linked it to me the other day, so thank you for that. Basically, we're going to just look at this and see if we're gonna end up playing it. I think I'm going to play Spectral Shield Throw for my first build, but I'm not too sure. So this is what Spectral Shield Throw is. It says right here, it throws a spectral copy of your shield as a projectile which cannot pierce and deals offhand damage augmented by the defense of the shield. When it collides with something, it will shatter, launching a number of smaller shards as projectiles in all directions. Modifiers that cause additional projectiles to be fired will add more shards, not more copies of the shield. And then it has a little thing here saying that the base offhand crit strike chance is 5%, which is kind of like most skills in the game, as well as spells. And then you get extra crit strike chance per 10 maximum energy shield on a shield. And you get 2 to 3 added physical damage per 15 armor or evasion rating on a shield. So if you have a hybrid, it will add both, or just, it will add them together for if it's an armor evasion based. And the shard projectiles, so when it explodes, deal 25% less damage, which is kind of like greater multi or lesser multi. 13 to 19 base offhand physical damage. So it starts at a base of 13 to 19 damage, physical damage. It fires 8 additional projectiles when it shatters, and you get 20% more attack speed. So it looks like the way this works is pretty much like a frost blade type of thing, where you hit something and it explodes. Probably much like when you kill the porcupine dudes in the game. When they explode, you get that AoE type of shard thing. It'll probably be very similar to that in kind of animation, I guess you'd say, or the mechanics of it when it explodes. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then what we've heard is that the 2 to 3 added physical damage per 15 armor, that does not change as you level up the gem, as well as the 0.1% critical strike chance, so that stuff just stays the same. I think the things that end up leveling up as you level this is the base offhand physical damage will level up as you level up the gem. Probably the shard projectiles dealing 25% less damage will maybe go down, so it'll get stronger as well. We'll see though. And it's a strength dex gem. Okay, so here we go. This guy did some math, which we don't have to do before, so that's nice. So it says, I did some math to the skill in different thread on the basis of the level 1 skill gem. Here's a brief rundown. The formula I used to calculate the DPS resulting for the shield's defense value, armor plus evasion, can be found here. So I looked at this yesterday, and we noticed that, I noticed that the highest shield that you want for damage is just pure armor, is what I decided with, but we'll see. Generally, armor shields have the highest scaling possibilities. Okay, so at least we got something right. A perfect T0, T1 armor shield crafted with the deafening essence of dread can reach up to 2,900 armor, resulting in a theoretical maximum of 722,000 base physical damage, physical PDPS. A very solid T1 Haku crafted shield gets you about 2,400 armor, resulting in about 600 physical DPS for well-rolled shields. Still very good, I guess you'd say. I think he meant 600,000 base DPS. Oh no, wait, hold on. Oh, 722 damn, base DPS is what I meant. This is a comma, which is a period. So 722, not 1,000. 722, that would be insane. Base DPS, and this is 600 base PDPS as well. For a well-rolled shield. I forgot Europeans put commas instead of periods. The highest DPS shield unique is Magna Eclipsis. So if you guys don't know what Magna Eclipsis is, it is a new shield that I think dropped in Abyss. It is basically the forging of 2 shields that you can get as well that are new. Invictus Solaris with Vix Lunaris, basically the Sun Temple and the Moon Temple. If you put an Orb of Fusing together, you do get the Magna Eclipsis. So basically, the Sun and the Moon put together. So that's pretty cool. So this thing does roll very high when it comes to armor. So this thing might go up in price. Right now, you can get it for about 15 Chaos on the trade channel. But if you buy the Invictus Solaris and the Vix Lunaris, you can get those for about 2 to 3 Chaos each. So it's about 5 to 6 chaos 4 to 6, we'll say, with an Orb of Fusing to make your own. So I would probably do that. But the thing is, I'm going to assume that this was going to go up heavily in price because of this shield throw thing. If these calculations are correct, at least in the beginning of the league, because everyone's going to be playing this probably. So the highest DPS unique shield is this with 461 damage and 1% base crit. The reason why I think this will go up in price is because it's usually easier to get a unique shield than it is to get like a T1 very well rolled, you know, shield. In the beginning of the league, I should say. Various info from Bex. So Bex is like a community manager, I believe, for GGG. She probably does other things too, so don't quote me if I'm wrong. Oops, I did not mean to click on that. Okay, so the skill's base attack speed is currently 1.2, which is base unarmed attack speed, but subject to discussion. Gem level scale the amount of flat added fizz damage. The fizz damage per armor is fixed. Okay, so this guy thinks whether ES scaling on the shield is worth it depends on how much flat fizz the skill gains per gem level. The thing about this is there's just not a lot of crit on the tree for this, in my opinion. The random armor. So someone's saying that Lucilia saying the problem with fusing the shield is a random armor roll. That's true. That's true. I guess you can waste a divine orb, but at a point maybe it's worth just investing that into something else. I don't know how that random armor works. I just know when you get faded uniques, it does use the base. It does use your base stats, and then whatever is added is the roll. You know, the new thing is rolled, but I don't know how the armor works for that. Maybe you're right. Maybe if you don't, I'm assuming if you start with 2 well-rolled shields, it will combine into a better one, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Skill tree knows that grant increased defenses from equipped shield do not scale the skill's damage, which is kind of saddening because we made a tree and I picked all these nodes and they don't work, unfortunately. Modifiers to unarmed, we also tried this. Facebreakers, Doriani's Fist, Rigor's Curse, for example, do not apply to skills. So Facebreakers won't work because it is unarmed melee damage, physical damage. Doriani's also doesn't work with this, so that's sad. So these things are out. These 2 things are out. First impression. So this one says it seems like the skill's best is an AoE clear skill with a stat kick in your main hand, or stat stick, sorry, in your main hand. Ideally, something as insane as this. So let's see what he's saying is really good. Dire Crusher Void Scepter. This is exactly what I wanted to do, and I think this is this? I don't know if this is Demi's item or this might actually be Demigod King's item. I'm not too sure, but I've seen one that's just like this. But yes, you want to do physical conversion or add it as extra damage. So 40% physical as extra fire, extra lightning, then 20% elemental as extra chaos, and then 30% physical damage, extra damage of a random element. Really crazy for sure. And then even the damage penetration for 10% elemental resist and an extra multi. That's insane. Like, you're not going to really get that unless you have a mirror, obviously, but it's still pretty insane, and it's only going to be on standard for now if you want to get that. So that's crazy. That's definitely your kind of ideal thing out there for a lot of builds, actually. A lot of LE type of physical plus LE, conversion to LE, or I shouldn't say conversion, but additive like conversion or whatever. I don't know what the term is, but that is pretty cool. Mechanic interactions. So let's see here. So chain. There's a video on IGN which shows the shield actually explodes on every target it chains of, but that was sadly an unfinished version of the skill. So let's check this out. I just want to see this thing. So this isn't, just remember guys, this is not real. Okay, advertisement. Maybe fighting Uber. Is it on this one, maybe? Whoa. Hello. This is just an advertisement. I don't know. I don't know where it is. Oh, that's yeah. Oh, whatever. It's fine. Unspecial version of skill. Shield only shatters at the end of the projectile flight after it's finished chaining and forking. So fork, this is wrong. The way that fork works, if we look at fork, it says supports projectile skills, making their projectiles fork into 2 projectiles the first time they hit an enemy and don't pierce it. So I'm pretty sure that means when you shoot your projectile say there's like, say you have 3 guys out there, and they're lined up in a line, I guess you'd say. When you hit, well, I guess maybe we'll just, for the sake of this argument, we'll have like a pyramid, like 1 guy, 2 guys, and 3 guys. So when you shoot, it'll hit the first guy, and it'll actually fork in the 2, and then when it hits the 2 guys, those should fork in the 2 as well. And then what will happen is, obviously, you will hit the guys behind it, and they can't go anywhere else, because there's nowhere in place to fork, because it travels like a projectile. So a fork, and then fork, and then I think all those 4 will explode into shards. So you'll have a huge, like, explosion at the base of that pyramid if, you know, if the guys are lined up that way. I think that's how fork would work with this projectile. I'm pretty sure that's how it would work with this. Multi-projectiles, so you can only ever throw 1 shield. So again, with that pyramid thing, with a GMP, or I guess like GMP or whatever, you would hit the top and then it would just explode there, but the shards would come out instead of 8 in a Nova, it will be like 12 or something like that. Because if we look at GMP, you get support skills have blah blah blah. 4 additional, so I guess it'd be, yeah, 8 plus 4, so 12 additional like Nova Spike things that are coming out. They'll do less damage. So I'm assuming that's what it would do, and so I don't really feel like LMP or GMP is very good in this case, because, you know, you only hit the first guy and you only get a few more projectiles on that. I don't think it's gonna be great. We'll see though. Projectile speed, obviously just how fast the shield will travel, and if you fork it, it will go faster, you know, as you fork through. Trapped mines and totems. Technically, it's a projectile attack, so it's thinkable that shield throw could work with these mechanics. I disagree with this because of the fact that Spectral Throw, which is in the game now, which is a projectile attack as well, says throws a projectile copy of your melee weapon, it flies out and then returns to you in a spinning attack that strikes enemies in its path. It doesn't work with totems or traps or anything like that. So I'm going to assume that Spectral Throw is totally out of that equation. I don't know why he assumed it would work. Maybe it will. I don't think it will, just because of that. Spectral Shield Throw, as we can see, you know, this Spectral Throw says throws a spectral copy of your melee weapon. And if we look at this thing, it says throws a spectral copy of your shield as a projectile. So I'm assuming totems don't have melee abilities. They only have range stuff. So, you know, I don't think it's going to work with traps, totems, and mines. Point blank, currently unknown. For comparison, tornado shots, secondary arrows are a continuation of the primary arrows. Their travel distance traveled for the purposes of point blank includes the distance traveled by the purpose. Yeah, that is very true. So the way what they're saying basically is, with tornado shot, what happens is you shoot, you know, an arrow, it hits the ground, and then you get a bunch of mini projectiles to explode from that location. Very, very similar to this in kind of mechanics, where you throw the shield, it hits a target, explodes instead of hitting the ground. And what point blank does is the closer you are to a target, the more damage you do, or so the less flight travel time or path travel your arrow has or projectile has to the target, you do more damage. Just like far shot is the exact opposite. So for tornado shot, you would think, well, you know, you shoot your arrow, hits the ground, and then all these mini projectiles come out. It would do more damage because the mini projectiles are actually doing the damage, not so much the first arrow, but it actually takes into account the flight path for the first projectile, and then the flight path of the mini projectiles as well to the target. So in this case, it's probably going to be the same, where, you know, if you have a guy in the back of a pyramid again, and you hit the first guy and it explodes, these shards, if it hits the back of the pyramid, are going to take the travel time it takes from you to throw your shield to the first target, and then all the way to the last target. So basically you to the last target, how long that travel time is, or distance is going to be how it's calculated with point blank or far shot. So with fork, far shot actually might be very good, just because of the fact that if you throw your projectile, you know, into a group of guys and you get this pinging going around, when you fork through a pyramid, like we were saying before, if it's a dense pack, that's going to be extra travel time. So with the projectiles at the end. So I think far shot actually might be pretty good with this skill. I don't know if you put fork on it, but we'll have to see. But the other problem too is that you'd have to start from a farther away position, so it might not actually be worth it, just because we know, like, when we farm really quickly, we use movement skills, and you know, you end up usually throwing or shooting your arrows very close to a pack, so it might still be better just to go with point blank or none of them. Okay, it says we can assume the skill works with wands because it has no melee tag, enabling Crown of Eyes for damage scaling. However, this is not yet confirmed. That's interesting. I didn't think about using a wand as a stat stick. Yeah, that does seem like it probably would work just because of the fact that, yeah, I guess you're throwing your shield. It has nothing to do with throwing your weapon. So that's interesting. I didn't think about that. It's pretty unclear, or currently unclear, whether local attack speed modifiers on your main hand weapon also apply to shield's attack throw speed. I don't think it will, but the reason why interaction is on Leap Slam is because you're using your weapon, I guess, to attack with. Same with Whirling Blades, you're using your weapon to attack with, and it's not anything to do with, you know, your shield in this case. So I'm going to say no, but I guess we don't really know. Obviously globals will, but... And then Mark says down here first, Fork... The guy said, the guy who wrote this post said, Fork consumes a projectile on impact and creates 2 new projectiles. This means initial projectiles and resulting projectiles from Fork will explode and release shards. And he said, this is not how Fork works. The original projectile continues as 2 projectiles. It's the same as chaining, except it continues as 2 rather than 1. It will not shatter when it forks because it's continuing. So that's what I was trying to say. The Fork will continue to fork until it cannot fork any longer, and then it ends up shattering, I believe. It says it's pretty... Hold on, let's see. It's currently unclear whether local attack speed modifiers also apply to shields to their attack speed. This interaction is the only episode. They would if you could actually get local attack speed modifiers on a shield, but you can't. Okay, that's what I assumed as well. So, I mean, in the end, I think it's the same thing here where... Getting an armor shield is probably the best, or an armor evasion hybrid. I would say probably armor, or if you want to make maybe a dodge build, I don't know. Shield, you said, someone says shield charge doesn't work with wands. Okay, that's true. Let me read this again. Shield charge is a melee skill, charges you deal damage in a larger area when you're doing it. Okay, so we know how shield charge works, but apparently it's saying, I think it's because it's a melee tag, maybe that's why, but you might be right. Maybe, you know, maybe it won't work even though there's no melee tag here, but then again with Spectral Throw there's no melee tag there, so I don't know. I mean, Spectral Throw, you can't throw your wand because you have to use a melee weapon, but it's kind of weird being a shield since it's new. Maybe they're gonna have to add, you know, modifiers in the game later on when people do start doing shield charge and stuff, and or, you know, stuff like that where you have a wand and it works. Maybe that's not what they meant. You know, maybe it's going to have to say, maybe it's going to have to put something, not a melee tag, but I don't know. Something else to make it more obvious that it won't work with wands. I think it will work with wands just because of the fact that it's using your shields. It has nothing to do with your main hand weapon. But... I don't know. It's interesting. It's very interesting to see how this will work because Crown of Eyes is what they were saying. Running Crown of Eyes, basically what that does is modifiers to increase your spell damage also increase your attack damage. So it might be really good. I don't know. They aren't sure why they decided not to shield charge wands, as the older designers decided that. Well, I mean, either way, I think it'll be interesting. I think Spectral Shield Throw is going to be a very interesting thing to play around with. I'm definitely going to use it. I think Chain is going to be, or Fork's going to be very good. I don't know if Chain's going to be good. So Chain, if you guys don't know what that is, it's just supported projectile skills and any other skills that, or supports projectile skills and any other skills that Chain. It doesn't really tell you what Chain does necessarily, but pretty much it's the same thing as Fork, except for Chain auto targets, whereas Fork does not. And what I mean by that is, if you have, say, a pyramid again, 1 guy, 2 guys, and 3 guys, with Chain, it's going to hit the first guy, and then, you know, it'll hit the second guy like this, and it'll hit this guy, or it'll hit this guy, and it'll chain through them like Arc does. It's auto-targeted, and it only chains up to so many times. Now, here's the difference. If you had, say, a straight line of 3 guys, and it chains 2 times, you hit the first guy, and it'll chain to the second guy, that's 1 chain, and it'll chain to the third guy. Hit all 3 of them, that's 3 chains. The thing about Fork is, since it doesn't auto-target, if you hit the first guy, Fork usually breaks into two, like this. So it'll hit the first guy, it'll fork, but it will probably miss the two guys behind him. So that's the difference between fork and chain. They seem very similar. It's just that fork, you know, just keeps on breaking off and continuing. When it forks, it continues at a certain angle. And then, you know, so if you are right next to the pack of guys and you fork, well, it's probably going to hit all of them or most of them because, you know, your cone angle is going to be very, very narrow, I guess you'd say, you know. But if you're really far back, the problem is, you know, when you shoot very far and it hits the first guy, it's going to fork out, you know, at a certain angle and probably miss everyone behind that person. So fork is going to be interesting. Fork will probably do well, again, if you're very, very close, and that's when you probably want to use something like point blank. Chain will pretty much, chain will, I think, guarantee that you hit a certain amount of guys all the time, but the problem is I don't know how chain works. I think the way chain will work, though, is the chain will work on the projectiles that explode. I don't think it's going to chain the initial shot. I think. And now that I think about it, I don't think fork is going to... Well, I think fork is bad, because I think fork will not explode at all. Because now thinking about this... It says fork projectile, making their projectiles fork into two projectiles the first time they hit an enemy. Oh, okay, the first time they hit an enemy. Gotcha. And don't pierce it. So maybe I'm wrong about how fork works. So maybe fork only forks one time and doesn't keep on forking. Maybe when it hits a pyramid, it will hit the first guy, fork into the two guys, and then explode there. Maybe that's how it works. I'm not too sure. Interesting. Doesn't the most of the damage come from the shards? So anything that keeps shield balancing with lower damage or delay most of your damage? I don't know. I actually don't know. No, the shard projectiles deal less damage. The first one does the most damage, I believe, right? Because it says shard projectiles deal 25% less damage. So I'm pretty sure the initial hit does a lot of damage, and then the other ones do less damage, right? Pretty sure that's how it works. So if you're shooting if you're doing this as a single target, though, you're not going to do much damage because your explosion will not hit anything. I mean, it'll just hit the first guy and explode and do nothing else, right? You're actually not going to be hitting your target I mean, you're just going to be hitting your target with the initial hit. So, I think that's going to be an issue with single target. Yeah, the Deadeye with the passive that makes projectiles fly back to you. Yeah, I thought about that too, but the problem is, I mean, what's that going to do? It's just... Oh, will the shards come back to you as well? I don't know how that works, actually. So we were talking about Deadeye. Let me open up Path of Building here. So people are saying Deadeye has this thing over here where it's called Powerful Precision. It says attack projectiles return to you after hitting targets. So, I don't know, but the only issue about Powerful Precision is that the piercing thing is kind of weird, because you can't pierce your main shot, but I guess your exploding ones can, I'm assuming. So it says projectiles have 100% increased critical chance against targets they pierce. Projectiles pierce all nearby targets. And then it says attack projectiles return to you after hitting targets. I don't actually know how this will work, because you end up shooting the first guy, that cannot pierce. So that will return back to you, and then you'll get Explosion Nova. Those will hit guys which I think can pierce. And it said projectiles pierce all nearby targets, whatever that radius is. So it looks like it would pierce, and then it would go come back to you? I don't know. That'd be pretty crazy if that's how it works. I don't know how that's how it works with Powerful Precision. I think Point Blank would be better with this build, but I don't know. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, if that's how it works, that'd be good. But if the shards can't pierce, then it doesn't. It's not great. But I think I don't know. It says modifiers that add additional projectiles that to be fired will add more shards, not more copies. It doesn't say anything about. It just says but it just says the copy of your shield is a projectile which cannot pierce. But it doesn't say anything about the additional projectiles cannot pierce. It never says that. So, I don't know. This might be... I think this might be interesting with projectile precision for sure. I thought about actually running Deadeye as well, just to get, you know, the chain and then powerful precision. Endless munitions is interesting because you get an extra projectile, but the thing is, the extra projectile only adds to the explosion, so it's not very good. But I think, you know, if you went Deadeye and you went Ricochet to get the +1 chain, you also get powerful precision, which if that works, that'd be really good. And then you probably get, I guess I wouldn't even get Far Shot. I get Rupture. Far Shot I don't think is going to be good with this build. Rupture would be interesting. That way you can get bleeding. It's physical based, so that's really good. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Deadeye is going to be very good for this build, and that's probably what I'm going to end up going up as, especially since the fact that you can't actually get you can't get more damage from defense modifiers. So I was initially going to go is this Gladiator? Not Gladiator. Is it Gladiator? I think it's Gladiator. I was initially going to go this guy because he has so many shields, you know, plus damage shield modifiers, and he's so close to, you know, like Defiance and Command of Steel. And these Retaliation and Testudo, but the problem is it doesn't do anything to your damage. I mean, you still can get modifiers like increased physical attack damage while holding a shield, which will actually work for the shield throw, but I think it'll still work. I think it'll still work as a Gladiator, but I think if I went this build, I think I would try to go Deadeye. I think a lot of people are going to either go Deadeye or Gladiator. We'll see, though. If you guys have any ideas, tell me in chat right now, or leave a comment below. I think it's going to be a really, really cool skill. I think a lot of people are going to play it, though, so if anyone wants to play it, it's going to be a high risk, high reward. I think it's one of those things where if you do really well, it's going to be awesome. If you don't do really well, it's probably going to suck. I don't know how it's going to do against single target. I think it's going to be good for clearing, but I think single target is going to be a little shaky to begin with, but we'll see. I think it's going to be cool. I'm going to try it out. Maybe I'll make a video about it if I end up choosing that as my first build for Bestiary League.